Hello, today remember we are in the Holy Week, and here we are going to share on Holy Thursday at the Lord's Supper, and the Gospel that we will look at will talk about Jesus washing the feet of the disciples. And he said, if I, the master and teacher, have washed your feet, you ought to wash one another's feet. And he said another thing here, Holy Thursday, I have given you a model to follow, so that as I have done for you, you should also do. Okay? So Jesus is given an example by his action, by his washing their feet, and exhorted them to do the same to one another. We will look more at what St. John, the Gospel of St. John said. So here we are reading from the Gospel of John. Before the feast of Passover, Jesus knew that his hour had come to pass from this world to the Father. Here it meant that Jesus knew that he was going to die soon and return to the Father. So he said this. And he loved his own in the world, and he loved them to the end. The devil had already induced Judas, son of Simon the Iscariot, to hand him over to betray Jesus to his enemies. So during supper, fully aware that the Father had put everything into his power, into Jesus' power, and that he had come from God and was returning to God. So Jesus came from God the Father, and he was returning to God the Father. And it meant that he was going to die now, soon. Jesus rose from supper and took off his outer garments. Why did he do that? He also took a towel and tied it around his waist. Then he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and dry them with the towel around his waist. He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, Master, are you going to wash my feet? Jesus answered and said to him, what I am doing you do not understand now, but you will understand later. Peter said to him, you will never wash my feet. So Peter did not feel at ease of Jesus washing his feet. So he couldn't take it. So he said, you will never wash my feet. But Jesus answered him, unless I wash your feet, you will have no inheritance with me. That means you are not, you are distant from me, something like that. So Simon Peter said to him, Master, then not only my feet, but my hands and head as well. Jesus said to him, whoever has bathed has no need except to have his feet washed, for he is clean all over. So you are clean, but not all. Not all means not all of you are clean. You are clean, but not all of you. And what was he talking about? For he knew who would betray him. For this reason, he said, not all of you are clean. So the one who would be betraying him would not be clean. If I, therefore, the master and teacher, have washed your feet, you ought to wash one another's feet. So he told his disciples they must learn from him and be willing to do similarly. I have given you a model to follow, so that as I have done for you, you should also do. So Jesus have washed the disciples' feet and taught them to wash one another's feet. If I have given you a model to follow, so that I have done so that as I have done for you, you should also do. This is Holy Thursday. So we come to giving a main gist of what the Gospel of St. John was bringing out, what Jesus was talking about. But before we go to washing of the feet, there is another very important thing of the Last Supper in other Gospels. And it is that Jesus established the Eucharistic sharing of his body and blood at the Last Supper. This is a sacrament, the sacramental sharing of his body and blood. So this is a very important thing, and it happens at every Mass. Jesus also washed the feet of his disciples, as we have seen just now. And he said, if I, master and teacher, have washed your feet, you ought to wash one another's feet. And he had another saying, I have given you a model to follow, so that as I have done for you, you should also do. So here, this is from the Gospel of St. John, and this is also connected to the Eucharistic sharing. We must do loving and humble service to one another as Jesus did. That the washing of the feet would be loving and humble service. And we must do such loving and humble service to one another as Jesus did for the disciples. So we must learn from this, a humble and loving service. But the service is not only washing feet. The service is taking care and doing minor things or humble things to care for others, as a service, as Jesus did. So we must learn from this, and Holy Thursday we must remember Christ sharing his body and blood and establishing the Eucharist, the sacrament of Eucharist, and also telling us to rate this with humble and loving service to one another. So we must learn and practice and do it. Okay? God bless.